a report comes out that's got Jetnation in a lather. Let's talk about it. So what's happening, everybody? This is GreenBean back with another video. I'm happy to be here with you guys yet again. We spent all night. We were into the wee hours last night on the Monday night 10 o'clock mock. We only have a couple more of those left, and I love being able to do this stuff with you guys. But now we're back to talk about something that has us kind of aggravated. Before we get into it, I want to remind you that if you haven't done it already, hit that little thumbs up button underneath the video, and then you can even step it up by hitting that red rectangular subscribe button. That means all the world, and it lets you be a part of the channel and all the stuff that's coming out. You will be reminded. Hit that bell notification and you won't miss a single thing being released here on GreenBeanJetsfan.com. And also, I'd like to invite you to join the Beanbaggers. The link is in the top of the description to come on in and support the channel through Patreon. You get all sorts of exclusive content, really great meetups and positional breakdowns and deep dives and all that fun stuff. And you can do that simply by hitting the Patreon link. And hey, if you're a tier 3, you even get to be a guest host on one of our live streams like we did last night. We had our good buddy Mutt Viles as a co-host of the Monday night 10 o'clock mock, and that was a blast. So, what is it out there? Why does it seem like every 48 hours, Jets fans get poked in the ribs? Doesn't it feel like that? It's like we get a couple days of quiet, somebody comes out and says, no. Let's stoke the Jet fans and get some clicks and get some views. And that's kind of what happens out there. This report comes out after a couple days of a little bit of a lull. So here it is. This is from The Athletic. We're going to take a look at this and see, hey, what's true? What's not true? What does it mean? Is it just a bunch of baloney? So let's talk about it. This came out from Mike Sando from The Athletic. And he says that the Jets were in on a ton of guys and got nobody, including Tyreek Hill, who chose the Dolphins over the Jets when Kansas City granted him permission to seek a trade in March. They don't have a selling point to players right now, the executive said. People don't know what to think of Zach Wilson. Players don't necessarily covet playing in that market. Imagine that. What are they talking about? Why wouldn't you want to play here? I don't get it. And guys who have choices tend to wind up elsewhere. New York this offseason has signed second and third tier free agents like Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, guard Laken Tomlinson, and safety Jordan Whitehead, while failing to land a splash free agency signing despite plenty of cap space. An improved performance from Zach Wilson in 2022 would go a long way in luring big-name free agents to the Jets next offseason. It would be exceedingly difficult for Wilson to be worse than he was as a rookie. There it is. And on my way out, let me just spit on your floor. Tuh! That's what it looks like, right? Oh, and by the way, Wilson sucks. Okay, good. So let's talk about this little blurb. Again, Jets fans seem to be bothered by it. I've perused Twitter, obviously, Instagram. I stopped by Jetnation, and guys are talking about it. Most of what I've seen has been people aggravatedly responding to it or completely dismissing it. And I don't think either are necessarily the right way to look at this. Number one, it's kind of true. All right? Like, this is the thing. If you look at the first portion of this, it says that the Jets were in on a ton of guys and got nobody. Now, I don't know if the word nobody applies, but let's be real. Joe Douglas said in an interview down at the owners' meetings, we were in till the last minute with a couple of guys, and we saw that it was teetering on being reckless as opposed to being aggressive, so we bowed out. We stood down was how he said it. So now, can that be looked at as the Jets got nobody, or the Jets didn't want to go and overpay and do all the things that the New York Jets have done historically? So I don't know. It depends on which side you want to view it from. But if it's by choice by our general manager to not be reckless, I got to say it shows discipline and it should be applauded. Now, maybe there's a guy or two out there that you'd like to have seen them sign, and maybe sometimes it's worth paying the extra $1 or $2 million. and that could be a negative too for Joe Douglas. But again, it all depends on how you look at it, and we don't know how many guys they were in on and that the guys chose somebody else. But I don't think the word nobody would apply. He said Tyreek Hill, hey, he chose the Dolphins over the Jets. Now, we have numerous reasons for that, right? He has a house there. He's from Miami in many respects. And don't forget, Miami has had 2 consecutive winning records, and they left the rebuild gates 2 years before us. So don't forget, man, they fired Adam Gase. The New York Jets hired Adam Gase. They started their rebuild right then. Remember, they traded guys like Larry Tunsil, and they started acquiring picks 3 years ago. Okay, so they're going into year 4. Now, you can argue that the coaching change could be debilitating to a degree, right? We don't know what McDaniel's going to be and all that. So there's definitely a stick in the spokes. But the truth of it is that the Miami Dolphins left the gates years ago. They are 4 years into this rebuild process, and the Jets, the Adam Gase thing, delayed us for 2 years, and we're essentially 1. We're going into year 2 of the rebuild. So they had 2 winning seasons, 10 and 9 wins respectively over the past 2 years. And guys, that's the truth of it. I mean, I'd say it's actually surprising that they didn't make the playoffs. They just missed the playoffs. They're essentially a playoff team. You might not like Tua. You might not think they're on all that good of a situation with the coaches, but that's the truth of it. 10 wins, 9 wins. It's Miami. He's from there. So there's all kinds of reasons. But at the core of it, Tyreek Hill chose Miami over the Jets. So what are you going to do? That's true. It's the truth. We might not like it, and there are reasons for it, but it's true. Now, what about this line? The Jets don't have a selling point to players right now. People don't know what to think of Zach Wilson. Is that a fair point? Sure. Now, this is one of the things guys like myself have talked about going into the last 2 years of free agency. You know, we expect Joe Douglas to be able to get this guy or that guy, or, hey, why isn't he doing this or that? But the truth is that we're not necessarily in an attractive place right now. So our general manager, in order to overcome that, immediately he's going to have to greatly overpay. That's what happened with C.J. Mosley, Le'Veon Bell. We know that the Jets have done this numerous times in the past. Just blew people's doors off with a crazy contract, and then they come here and it doesn't work, and they just collect payments. And Joe Douglas just took the last 2.5 years to clean that kind of crap off of our ledger. So getting right back into it doesn't exactly make a ton of sense. But if you look at it just at face value, our general manager is handcuffed to a degree because of the history of this organization, because the last few years. Don't forget, we've only had 6 wins in 2 years, especially when comparing it to a team like Miami. They won 19 games in the last 2 years. We have 6. So you can understand players not wanting to just jump over here and sign with the Jets, especially because Zach Wilson had a tumultuous year last year. We don't got to go into all the reasons and everything that happened. If they're just looking from afar, they're going to look at a guy who had more interceptions than touchdowns, had he was injured, all the stuff that they're going to look at when they just look at his stat line, and they're going to say, maybe I don't want to go over there. I don't know what this kid is. So it makes a bunch of sense, and that's something that our general manager has to overcome. In order to sell the Jets to a player and try to get him over here, they have to be able to sell them without anything substantial about the team. They have to sell them on future, on what we're building. Robert Saleh's got to get involved and rah-rah the place and all that. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are working a little bit harder than maybe the Chiefs to get a player, over here. So that's one of the things. Like when you look at the Jets losing out to Miami for a guy like Tyreek Hill, it makes a ton of sense why we would lose out to Miami on a guy like Tyreek Hill. But here's an interesting statement. It says, players don't necessarily covet playing in that market. I know that that's going to be surprising to a lot of people. We tend to think, hey, New York is the Mecca. What are you talking about? But the truth is, and I just made a video about it the other day in my podcast this week.
Hey, you're an asshole.
Hey, we have fans that think it's okay, or that it's their right to go to people's, to go to players' Instagram pages or Twitter pages and call them names and harass them. That's what they think. They think it's our right to do so. Most markets, I'm just going to tell you, Most markets aren't doing that to their own players. So when you look at a player coming here, number one, we've had a losing history. Give it the past decade. Most of these guys, they're coming into the NFL. Let's say they're 25 years old. Dude, the last time the Jets were good, they were 14 years old. It's 13 years old, so they don't even remember this stuff. So you got that to overcome. And then you have the New York media. They're making up stories. They're calling Mekhi Becton fat and lazy. They're saying he's eating himself to death. You know the stories. That's what they do here. They're trying to actually make it more difficult for people. And then you have groups of fans attacking them on Twitter. So you could see it. Players don't necessarily covet playing here. Now, like Chris Johnson has said in the past, if you win in New York, you're the king of the world. And I think that's accurate. There's no bigger market. There's no more passionate market. There's a lot to go on here. But when you just look at the facts of what's really going on over here, maybe players aren't all excited to come and play for the New York Jets. Especially, again, we haven't done anything in their lifetime. So it's not exactly difficult. Now, here's the last thing I'll talk about. They say that we've signed a bunch of Tier 2 and Tier 3 free agents. Now, there's a case to be made for some of that stuff. But the way that the Jets went about it is actually the exact way that we wanted to see them go about it. Laken Tomlinson, this is revisionist history. He was on everybody's free agent boards, whether it's PFF, CBS, whoever it is. They all had Laken Tomlinson in the top 2 or 3 of the free agent interior offensive linemen out there. It's the truth. Now that we signed him, they're looking at him, he's 30 years old and blah, blah. It's all a negative spin. There's no other way to slice it. The guy was the perfect free agent. He's on a high point, made it to the Pro Bowl. He's good. He is a Tier 1 free agent, and we got him. Now, when you look at guys like C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Conklin, hey, they had very, very strong years last year, but the NFL at large doesn't necessarily consider them, an Njoku, a Schultz, those types of guys that were on the market and were taken off. As far as what was left on the market, after all the franchise tags were given to the tight ends, I think we got 2 very, very good guys, but you can argue they're Tier 2 free agents. It is what it is, but it's still very, very smart moves. And you look at Jordan Whitehead and DJ Reed. Again, Jordan Whitehead was another one. They were all saying he was like 3, 4, 5 on the safety list in the free agent period this year. So I think we did fine there. You want to call him a Tier 2, call him a Tier 2. But again, it doesn't minimize what we've done. I scoured the internet and I looked around for, just other points of view. I just wanted to see. And I just took a look around and I saw a lot of this stuff. And I'll show you one. I think this one is from the Sporting News. And this is kind of the going rate out there. I see a lot of this type of thinking as far as our free agent class. It says Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh didn't go nuts with the spending, but were very calculated in the needed upgrades for the defense and offense with great draft capital ahead to continue the expedited turnaround centered around Zach Wilson. And that to me is very, very well said. It's why I used this one. It's calculated, guys. Like, that's what we're looking at. Now, the world is going to take their shots. That's what we're here for. We're the guys that get kicked. We're the guys that get made fun of. The truth is that it's easy. It's easy to do. We are low-hanging fruit. But when you look at these 2 reports, the Jets have been turned down. We've lost out on all the free agents. We have nothing to offer, all that stuff. The sad part of it, guys, is there's truth there. Now, is it spun in a negative way? Absolutely. It's kind of bullshit because we did a very, very good job in free agency. And like the Sporting News thing says here, we have a lot going into the draft, and I think we did a bang-up job in a calculated manner with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. So that's the whole thing with reports like this, is of course they're going to use things that are based in truth. It's like watching a movie and it says, based on a true story. Oh yeah, it's based on a true story. How much is true? The guy's name. It's like there's nothing true about it, So it's just based in truth. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here. I wouldn't let it, ruffle your feathers. I'm certainly not upset by it. When I look at it, it's like, do I want to see things like this? No. Why do they got to take that parting shot? It would be exceedingly difficult for Wilson to be worse than he was as a rookie. That is a parting shot. Did you need to say that? No. Is it defendable on our end? Probably, but what can you really say? You know, we're building something. We're building it in a calculated, precise manner, aggressive, not reckless. And I don't think anybody really buys in to what the Jets are doing. So it's our job to buy in. It's our job to be supportive, and it's our job to believe and not buy into this shit and get all upset. So what do you think? Did you get bothered by it? I'm dying to hear what you guys think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. With that all said, have a great day anyway. Okay, Jets fans? And as always, go Jets.